When Elon Musk slid a check for $1 billion across the table to his father, he thought it would solve everything. $1 billion. That's enough money to buy anything in the world. Private jets, mansions, islands, anything. But his father didn't even look at it. Instead, Elon Musk said 5 words that changed everything. "I don't want your money." Elon couldn't believe it. His father had spent his whole life chasing money and success. He'd borrowed money from Elon before. He'd even sold stories about Elon to newspapers just to make a quick buck. So why would he refuse $1 billion? "Then what do you want?" Elon asked, his voice shaking with confusion and anger. His father looked at him with tears in his eyes and said, "I want something from you that money can't buy. Something I should have asked for 30 years ago." But before he could say what it was, his phone rang. His face went white. He looked scared. Really scared. "I have to go," he said, standing up quickly. "Meet me tomorrow. Bring your brother Kimball. You'll understand why." And then he walked out, leaving Elon staring at the billion-dollar check, completely speechless. What could possibly be worth more than $1 billion? What was Errol hiding? And why did he need both sons there to reveal his secret? This is the true story of what happened next. A story about family, forgiveness, and a father's final wish that changed everything. Watch till the end to discover what Elon's father really wanted, and why it left both brothers in tears. When Elon Musk sat down in that private hotel room in South Africa, his hands were shaking. Not from fear of failure, he'd launched rockets into space without his hands shaking. Not from nervousness about money, he'd bet his entire fortune on crazy ideas before. His hands were shaking because he was about to see his father for the first time in years, and this time he had a plan to end their painful relationship once and for all. Elon Musk's hands were shaking, not from nervousness. He'd stood in front of presidents and billionaires without his hands shaking. He'd launched rockets into space, bet his entire fortune on electric cars, and bought entire social media platforms. None of that made his hands shake, but sitting in this private room at the Mount Nelson Hotel in Cape Town, South Africa, waiting for his father, that made his hands shake. The room was beautiful. Tall windows looked out over manicured gardens. Oil paintings hung on cream-colored walls. A grandfather clock in the corner ticked steadily, each second feeling like an hour. Elon checked his watch for the 3rd time in 5 minutes. His father was late. Of course he was late. Elon Musk was always late when it was something important to someone else. The door opened. Errol walked in slowly, and Elon was shocked by what he saw. His father looked old. Not just older, actually old. His face was thinner. His shoulders were hunched. His expensive suit hung loose on his frame. But his eyes were the same. Sharp, calculating, always judging. "Hello, Elon," Errol said, sitting down across from him at the mahogany table. "You're late," Elon replied coldly. "Traffic was terrible." "There's never traffic at this time of day. You were testing me, seeing if I'd wait." A tiny smile flickered across Errol's face. "Smart boy." "I'm 53 years old. I'm not a boy." The smile disappeared. They sat in silence. The clock ticked. Outside, birds sang in the garden. Inside, the air felt heavy and thick. Elon reached into his briefcase and pulled out a leather folder. His movements were deliberate and controlled. He slid the folder across the polished table. "This is for you," Elon said, his voice completely flat. "Open it." Errol didn't move. He just stared at his son. "Open it," Elon repeated. Slowly, Errol opened the folder. Inside was a single piece of paper, a bank transfer authorization form. At the bottom, in bold numbers, was an amount, $1 billion. Errol stared at the document for a long time. Then he closed the folder without saying a word. It's real," Elon said. "I had my lawyers prepare it yesterday. All you have to do is sign it. The money will be in your account within 24 hours. You can buy anything you want. Go anywhere you want. You'll never have to worry about money again." Errol still didn't speak. And after you sign it, Elon continued, his voice getting harder, we never have to see each other again. No more phone calls, no more surprise visits, no more interviews where you talk about me to newspapers. We can both pretend the other doesn't exist. The clock ticked. 5 seconds, 10 seconds, 15 seconds. Finally, Errol looked up. I don't want your money, Elon. Elon blinked. He had prepared himself for many possible reactions. Greed, fake gratitude, some manipulative speech about family, but not this. Never this. What? Elon asked quietly. I don't want your money, Errol repeated, his voice soft but clear. That's impossible. You've spent your entire life chasing money. You've borrowed money from me before. You've sold stories about me to tabloids for money. You literally chose money over our family when I was a child. I know, Errol said simply. Elon felt his anger rising, hot and familiar. Then what kind of game is this? What are you playing at? No game. Everyone wants something, Dad. You taught me that. So what do you want? More than $1 billion? $2 billion? Name your price. Errol shook his head slowly. I don't want your money, Elon. I want something from you that money can't buy. Something I should have asked for 30 years ago. Something I should have done 30 years ago. Elon leaned forward, his jaw tight. Then what? Now what do you want? Errol opened his mouth to speak, but before he could say a single word, his phone buzzed loudly on the table. He glanced down at the screen and his entire face changed. The color drained from his cheeks. His hand trembled as he picked up the phone. I have to go, Errol said suddenly, standing up. What? No, you don't get to do this. You don't get to make some dramatic statement and then just leave. I'm sorry, I have to go. It's urgent. More urgent than $1 billion? Elon snapped. Errol looked at his son with an expression Elon had never seen before. It looked almost like fear. Meet me tomorrow, Errol said. Same time, same place. And Elon, bring your brother Kimball. You'll understand why. He walked toward the door. Wait, Elon called out. You can't just... But Errol was already gone. Elon sat alone in the beautiful room, staring at the untouched $1 billion check on the table. The clock kept ticking. The birds kept singing. And for the first time in 30 years, Elon Musk had absolutely no idea what his father wanted. That terrified him more than anything. Elon sat frozen in that hotel room for 20 minutes after his father left. He stared at the leather folder containing the $1 billion transfer. He'd been so certain his father would take it. So absolutely sure that money would solve everything, or at least end everything cleanly. But Errol had barely looked at it. I want something from you that money can't buy. What could that possibly mean? What did his father want that was worth more than $1 billion? Elon picked up his phone and dialed. It rang twice before a familiar voice answered. Hey, now brother, Kimball said cheerfully. How's South Africa? He refused the money, Elon said without greeting. Silence on the other end. Complete silence. Kimball, are you there? Yeah, I'm here. I'm just processing. Did you say he refused it? He didn't even look at it properly, just closed the folder and said he didn't want it. That's impossible, Kimball said slowly. Dad has spent his whole life chasing money and status. He's borrowed from you before. I know all of that, Elon interrupted, his voice sharp. That's why this doesn't make sense. He stood up and walked to the window, looking out over the gardens. He said he wants something money can't buy, something he should have asked for 30 years ago. What does that mean? I don't know. He left before he could explain. I got some phone call that made him go pale and rush out. Kimball was quiet for a moment. Then, Elon, there's something I need to tell you. Something I didn't mention before because I thought it was just more of Dad's manipulation. Elon felt his stomach tighten. What? I got a letter from him about 3 weeks ago. A letter? What kind of letter? That's the weird part. It wasn't asking for money. It wasn't bragging about his life or his achievements. It was different. Elon sat back down. Different how? Kimball took a deep breath. He apologized, Elon. Really apologized. Not the fake kind where he says sorry but then explains why it wasn't really his fault. A real apology. For what? For specific things. Things from when we were kids. He apologized for the time he locked me in the basement for 6 hours because I got a bad grade. He apologized for telling me I was weak when I cried at Mom's birthday party. He apologized for making us choose between him and Mom during the divorce. Elon's throat felt tight. He remembers that? He remembers everything, apparently. He listed things I'd forgotten, things I'd buried. And Elon, these were things I never told anyone he did. Things only he and I would know about. The clock in the hotel room kept ticking. Outside, the sun was setting, painting the sky orange and pink. There's more, Kimball continued. At the end of the letter, he wrote something strange. He said, I'm running out of time to fix the one thing I broke that mattered. The only thing that mattered. What does that mean? Elon asked. I don't know. I thought maybe he meant his reputation, or his relationship with you, or something vague like that. But now, with him refusing $1 billion... You think he's dying, Elon said flatly. Another long silence. Maybe, Kimball admitted. The way he wrote that letter, the urgency in it, the specific apologies, it felt like a man trying to clean up his life before it ends. Elon stood up again and started pacing. His mind was racing through possibilities. Did he look sick when you last saw him? I haven't seen him in 2 years. You? Not until today, and yes, he looked different. Thinner, older. His suit didn't fit right. That's not like him. Dad's always been vain about his appearance. I know. Elon stopped pacing. He wants you here tomorrow. He specifically said to bring you. He said I'd understand why. Understand what? I don't know. Elon's voice rose with frustration. Nothing about this makes sense. Our father, who has spent 60 years being selfish and manipulative, suddenly doesn't want money? Suddenly wants something else? And whatever it is, he needs both of us there to ask for it? Kimball was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke again, his voice was soft. What if this is real, Elon? What if he's actually trying to make things right? People don't change. Not at his age. Not after a lifetime of... People change when they're facing death, Kimball interrupted gently. I've seen it in my restaurants. I've had older employees, people who've been bitter and angry their whole lives, get a cancer diagnosis. And suddenly they're different. Suddenly they care about things they never cared about before. Elon walked back to the window. The sun had set completely now. The gardens were dark except for scattered lights along the pathways. What if it's a trick? Elon asked quietly. What if this is just another way to manipulate us? To get something from us? Then we'll figure it out and leave. But Elon, what if it's not? What if Dad is dying and this is his last chance to fix things and we refuse to even listen? Elon closed his eyes. He thought about his childhood in Pretoria. The good memories and the terrible ones all mixed together. He remembered being 8 years old, sitting in his father's workshop while Errol explained how engines worked. The pride in his father's voice when young Elon understood complex concepts quickly. The feeling of being special, brilliant, chosen. He also remembered being 10 years old, watching his father scream at his mother during another fight. The sound of dishes breaking, his mother's tears. He remembered being 13, standing in the driveway with his suitcase, having to choose which parent to live with. He chose his father, thinking it would bring them closer. Thinking his father would be proud of him for being tough enough to make the hard choice. It was the biggest mistake of his childhood. Get on a plane, Elon said finally. I need you here. I'll book the next flight out. I'll be there by morning. Kimball? Yeah? Thank you for telling me about the letter, even though you weren't sure. We're brothers. That's what brothers do. They hung up. Elon stood alone in the darkening hotel room, the billion-dollar check still lying on the table, and felt something he hadn't felt in a very long time. Fear. Not fear of failure or fear of embarrassment. Those were familiar. He'd built his entire career on taking risk that terrified other people. This was different. This was the fear that his father might actually be trying to change. And if Errol could change, if someone so fundamentally broken could find a way to be better, then what did that say about all the years Elon had spent being angry? All the years he'd spent building walls? All the years he'd spent refusing to forgive? What if the real reason the meeting terrified him wasn't because his father might manipulate him again? What if it was because his father might actually apologize? And then Elon would have to decide whether to forgive him. Outside his window, the last light faded from the sky. Somewhere in Cape Town, his father was dealing with whatever urgent call had made him leave so abruptly. And tomorrow, Elon would find out what his father wanted that was worth more than $1 billion. He had a feeling that once he knew, everything would change. Everything. Elon didn't sleep that night. He lay in his hotel bed staring at the ceiling, his mind racing through memories he'd spent decades trying to forget. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw his father's face. Not the old, thin face from today, but the younger face from his childhood. Angry one moment, proud the next, always impossible to predict. At 4 a.m., he gave up on sleep. He went to the hotel gym and ran on the treadmill until his legs burned and his lungs ached. Physical pain was easier than emotional pain. Always had been. By 6:30 a.m., he was showered and dressed, and sitting in the hotel restaurant drinking his third coffee when Kimball walked in. His brother looked exhausted. His eyes were red from the long flight, his hair messy, his clothes wrinkled. But when he saw Elon, he smiled. That warm, easy smile that had always been Kimball's gift. They hugged. Really hugged. Not the quick, awkward embrace they usually did, but a real tight hug that lasted several seconds. "Thanks for coming," Elon said. "Of course." Kimball sat down and ordered coffee. "Have you heard from Dad?" "Text message an hour ago. Just said, same place, 10 a.m., please come." "Please?" Kimball raised his eyebrows. "Dad doesn't say please." "I know." They ate breakfast mostly in silence, both lost in their own thoughts. At 9:45 a.m., they walked together to the private room where Elon had met their father yesterday. All when they opened the door, Errol was already there. But he wasn't alone. Next to him sat an elderly woman neither brother recognized. She had kind eyes behind silver-framed glasses, and her white hair was pulled back in a neat bun. She wore a simple blue dress and held a worn cardboard box on her lap. "Boys," Errol said, standing slowly. His voice cracked slightly on the word. "Thank you for coming, both of you." Elon and Kimball exchanged confused glances but said nothing. "This is Nadine Oberholzer," Errol continued, gesturing to the woman. "She was your grandmother's best friend. They grew up together in Johannesburg." "I don't understand," Elon said carefully. "Why is she here?" Nadine smiled gently and spoke for the first time. Her voice was soft but firm, with the accent of someone who'd lived in South Africa her whole life. Because your father asked me to bring him something he gave me 43 years ago, when his mother, your grandmother, passed away. Something he told me to keep hidden until he was ready to face what he'd done." She placed the cardboard box on the table. It was old and worn, held together with packing tape that had yellowed with age. Errol's hands were shaking as he reached for it. Elon noticed the trembling and felt a strange twist in his chest. His father's hands never shook. Errol Musk was always controlled, always confident. "When my mother died," Errol began, his voice barely above a whisper, "I was 41 years old. You boys were very young. You probably don't remember her well." "I remember her a little," Kimball said quietly. "She made the best rooster kook, and she let us stay up late when we visited." A sad smile crossed Errol's face. "She loved you both so much, more than anything." He paused, taking a shaky breath. When she died, I found letters in her bedroom. Letters she'd written over many years but never sent. They were addressed to me. He opened the cardboard box and pulled out a stack of envelopes tied with faded string. The paper was yellowed and fragile. I read them once, the day after her funeral. I sat alone in her house and read every single one. Errol's eyes were wet now. And when I finished, I called Nadine and gave them to her. I told her to hide them from me, to never let me see them again unless I specifically asked. Why? Elon asked, his voice tight. Errol looked directly at his son. Because they showed me the truth about myself, and I wasn't ready to see it. I wasn't brave enough. He untied the string with trembling fingers and pulled out the top letter. She wrote these over 15 years. She never sent them because she knew I wouldn't listen. But she wrote them anyway. Maybe she hoped I'd find them someday. He slid the letter across the table to Elon. Read it. Out loud, please. Elon picked up the letter carefully. The paper felt fragile, like it might crumble in his hands. His grandmother's handwriting was shaky but clear, the writing of someone whose hands were failing, but whose mind was sharp. He began to read, his voice unsteady. My dear Errol, I'm writing this letter knowing you'll probably never read it, but I have to write it anyway because I'm watching you make the same mistakes your father made, and it breaks my heart. You are brilliant, my son, and you always have been. But brilliance without warmth is just a cold light that pushes people away. I see you with your boys, with Elon and Kimball, and I see the way you teach them, challenge them, push them. But I never see you simply hold them. I never hear you say, I love you, without adding, but you could do better. You're doing to them what your father did to you. You're showing love through tests and challenges instead of embraces. You're building walls around your heart and teaching them to do the same. I fear you'll lose them completely if you don't change. I fear you'll wake up one day, rich, accomplished, respected, but utterly alone. And you won't understand why, because you'll think you did everything right. You'll think you made them strong. But strength without love isn't strength at all, my son. It's just isolation dressed up as independence. Please, Errol, please learn to be soft with them. Learn to say, I'm proud of you without finding flaws. Learn that being a father isn't about creating perfect children. It's about loving imperfect children perfectly. I love you, I always will. But I'm frightened for you. And I'm frightened for my grandsons. Your mother. The room was absolutely silent when Elon finished reading. His hands were shaking now, too. Kimball had tears streaming down his face. Errol spoke, his voice broken. She wrote 12 letters like that. 12 letters over 15 years, watching me become exactly what she feared. Watching me lose your mother. Watching me push you both away. He pulled out more letters from the box and spread them on the table. This one was written when you were 10, Elon. After I criticized your science project instead of celebrating it. This one was after the divorce. This one was when Kimball was 14 and came to her crying because I'd called him weak. Kimball made a sound, half sob, half gasp. She knew about that? She knew everything. She saw everything. And she knew I was destroying the only things that mattered, my relationships with you boys, while convincing myself I was building you up. Elon stared at the letters spread across the table, his grandmother's words written decades ago, describing patterns he'd spent his entire adult life trying to escape. Why now? Elon asked, his voice hard. Why show us this now? Why not 10 years ago, 20 years ago? Errol reached back into the box one more time. His hand was shaking so badly he almost dropped what he pulled out. It was a medical document, on official letterhead from a hospital in Cape Town. He placed it on the table, facing his sons. The words at the top were clear. Diagnosis, stage 4, pancreatic cancer. Below that, prognosis, 3 to 4 months. Treatment options, palliative care only. The date on the document was 3 weeks ago. Because I have 4 months to live, Errol said quietly. Maybe less. And your $1 billion can't buy me more time, Elon. The best doctors in the world can't buy me more time. Nothing can. Kimball covered his face with his hands and started sobbing. Deep, wrenching sobs that shook his whole body. Elon just stared at the medical document. His brilliant mind, the mind that could solve engineering problems no one else could solve, that could see solutions no one else could see, went completely blank. I'm dying, Errol continued, and tears now flowing freely down his weathered face. And I finally understand what my mother was trying to tell me all those years. I finally understand what actually matters. He looked at both his sons with an expression of complete desperation. I don't want your money. I don't want your success. I don't want to be right about anything anymore. His voice cracked completely. I want to know what it feels like to be your father before I stop being anything at all. The grandfather clock in the corner kept ticking. Outside, birds sang in the garden. Inside, 3 men sat surrounded by decades of pain, all wrapped up in yellowed letters and impossible truths. And somewhere in that room, buried under all the hurt, was a question that would change everything. Was 4 months enough time to heal 40 years of damage? And the silence in the room was suffocating. Kimball's sobs gradually quieted into shaky breathing. Elon sat frozen, staring at the medical document, like if he looked at it long enough, the words might change. Stage 4, pancreatic cancer, 3 to 4 months, palliative care only. How long have you known? Elon finally asked, his voice mechanical. 3 months. I've had symptoms for probably 6 months before that, but I ignored them. By the time I went to a doctor, Errol trailed off, gesturing weakly at the document. There has to be something, Elon said, his mind suddenly racing. Experimental treatments, clinical trials. I know oncologists in Houston, in Germany, in Singapore. I can get you into any facility in the world. Money is no object. I've already been to them, Errol interrupted gently. All of them. Elon blinked. What? Houston, MD Anderson Cancer Center. I spent 2 weeks there in October. They were very kind, very thorough. The answer was no. The cancer is too aggressive, too advanced. Germany, then. There's a clinic in Munich. Yes, I went there in November. They tried an experimental immunotherapy protocol. It didn't work. Made me sicker, actually. Singapore has... I know what Singapore has. I went there too. Errol's voice was patient but firm. Elon, I've spent the last 3 months doing exactly what you're suggesting right now. I've traveled the world. I've seen the best doctors money can buy. I've tried treatments that aren't even approved yet. He reached into the box and pulled out a thick folder. Medical records, consultation notes, test results from hospitals across 4 continents. The cancer started in my pancreas. By the time they found it, it had already spread to my liver, my lungs, my lymph nodes. It's everywhere, son. And pancreatic cancer is... It's one of the worst ones. It doesn't respond well to treatment, even when you catch it early. Elon's hands clenched into fists. There has to be something. There's always something. Maybe if we... Elon. Errol's voice was soft but stopped him cold. It's over. I've made my peace with that. The doctors have given me 4 months, maybe 6 if I'm lucky. The pain medication keeps me comfortable. That's all anyone can do now. Kimball finally looked up, his face wet with tears. Why didn't you tell us? 3 months ago when you found out, why didn't you call? Errol looked down at his hands. Because I was ashamed. Because I knew that if I called you, the first thing you'd both think was, he wants something. He's dying, and now he wants money or attention or some final manipulation. Neither brother denied it, because it was true. That's exactly what they would have thought. So I didn't call. I went to the doctors alone. I tried the treatments alone. I came back to South Africa and sat in my house. alone, and read my mother's letters for the first time in 43 years. He looked up, his eyes red. And I realized I was about to die exactly the way she predicted. Rich, accomplished, utterly alone. Nadine Huan, who had been silent this whole time, spoke quietly. He called me 6 weeks ago, asked me to bring the letters. At first I said no. I thought he just wanted to destroy them, to hide the evidence of his mother's concerns, but then he explained what he wanted to do, and I understood. What did you want to do? Elon asked, though part of him was terrified of the answer. Errol took a deep, shaky breath. I want 4 months. 4 months of being the father I should have been from the beginning. Not your critic, not your competitor, not the man who hurt you and your mother. Just your dad. He pulled out one more item from the box. An old photograph, faded and creased. He placed it on the table. The photo showed a much younger Errol with 2 small boys on a beach. Elon recognized himself immediately, maybe 7 years old, skinny and sunburned, building a sandcastle with intense concentration. Kimball, just 5, was laughing at something out of frame, his whole face lit up with joy. And Errol was kneeling between them, his hands on both their shoulders, smiling in a way that looked completely genuine. I found this photo last month, Errol said quietly. I don't even remember this day. I don't remember where we were or what we were doing, but I look at this picture and I see it. That moment when I was actually your father, before I ruined everything. He touched the photo gently like it might dissolve. I want to remember what this felt like. I want to know, really know, what it means to be your father before I stop being anything at all. Elon stood abruptly, his chair scraping loudly against the floor. He walked to the window, his back to everyone. His shoulders were rigid with tension. You want 4 months, he said, his voice tight. 4 months of playing pretend that you were a good father? No. Errol's voice was firm. 4 months of trying to become one. I can't change the past, Elon. I can't undo the damage I did. I can't give you back the childhood you deserved, or give Kimball back his confidence, or fix your mother's broken heart. He stood slowly, facing his son's back. But I can spend my last days on Earth trying to give you both something real. Something that isn't poisoned by my ego or my fear or my need to always be right. I can try to love you the way my mother begged me to. Without conditions, without tests, without criticism. And what if we say no? Elon asked without turning around. What if we walk out that door right now and never come back? Then I would understand. I would deserve it. You can't just apologize away 40 years of damage with a cancer diagnosis. I know that! Errol's voice rose for the first time. Don't you think I know that? I'm not asking you to forget. I'm not asking you to pretend it didn't happen. I'm asking for 4 months to try to give you something good before I'm gone. Something you can remember that isn't pain. Elon spun around, his face furious. Why should we? Why should we give you 4 months of our time, our emotional energy, our forgiveness, when you gave us nothing but criticism and hurt for decades? Because you're better men than I am, Errol said simply. Because you didn't become me, despite everything I did. You became better, kinder, more capable of love. He took a step toward his sons. I'm not asking you to do this for me. I'm asking you to do it for yourselves, so that when I'm gone, you won't wonder if things could have been different. You won't spend the rest of your lives angry at a dead man who can never answer for his mistakes. Kimball stood up slowly. What would 4 months even look like? What are you asking for exactly? Errol pulled a piece of paper from his pocket. His handwriting covered it. Messy notes, crossed out lines, additions in the margins. I wrote down what I'm asking for. It's not much, it's probably not enough, but it's what I have. He cleared his throat and read, I'm asking for family dinners. Once a week if you'll allow it. Where we talk about your lives and I just listen. Where I don't criticize or judge or try to fix things. I just Listen. His voice wavered. I'm asking to meet your children properly, Elon. To know my grandchildren as real people, not just names you mention in interviews. To be gentle with them in ways I was never gentle with you. I'm asking for honesty. I'm going to see a therapist. I've already made an appointment. I want you both to come to some sessions with me. I'm going to say all the things you've never said. To tell me exactly how I hurt you. I need to hear it. All of it. I'm asking for time, just time together. Watching movies, going for walks while I still can, doing normal things that normal families do, things we never did. He lowered the paper, tears streaming down his face. And at the end of 4 months, if I'm still alive, I'm asking for the chance to say goodbye properly. Not angry, not bitter, just goodbye. From a father to his sons. The room was dead silent. Nadine pulled another letter from the box, the last one. Your grandmother wrote this 2 days before she died. She never sent it because she passed before she could. She handed it to Elon. Maybe this will help you decide. Elon's hands were shaking as he unfolded the fragile paper. Yeah, the handwriting was even shakier than the other letters. His grandmother had been very ill when she wrote this. He read it silently first, his eyes moving across the page. Then, in a voice that broke repeatedly, he read it aloud. Errol, my dear son, if you're reading this, it means I've run out of time. I need you to know something before I go. Being a man doesn't mean being hard. It doesn't mean never showing weakness. It doesn't mean proving yourself through achievements and success. The strongest men I've known have been the ones brave enough to admit when they were wrong. Brave enough to say, I love you without conditions. Brave enough to be gentle. You still have time to be that man for your boys. Please, don't waste it. Don't let pride and fear steal the one thing that truly matters. Love. Real love. Unconditional love. Yeah, it's not too late, my son. It's never too late while you're still breathing. But Errol, and this is important, it's also not guaranteed. Time runs out. People die, and you don't get to undo the damage after they're gone. If you're reading this, I'm already gone. You've already lost your chance to tell me everything you wanted to say. Don't do that to your sons. Don't make them lose their chance too. Give them the father they deserve while you still can. With all my love, your mother. Elon finished reading and the letter slipped from his fingers, floating down to the table. Kimball was crying again, but softer this time. Errol stood perfectly still, waiting. And Elon felt something inside his chest crack open. Something he'd kept locked away for decades. The anger was still there. The hurt was still there. But underneath it, yeah, there was something else. A tiny, fragile hope that maybe, just maybe, his father meant it this time. What happens if you fall back into old patterns? Elon asked quietly. What happens the first time you criticize us? The first time you make it about you instead of about healing? Then you walk away, Errol said without hesitation. No second chances, no excuses. I get 4 months, and if I waste them by being who I was instead of who I'm trying to be, then I die alone. That's the deal. Elon looked at his brother. Kimball's eyes were red but steady. He gave a tiny nod. You come to California, Elon said slowly. Not South Africa. You come to us. You see our therapist. You follow our rules. Agreed. And the very moment, you manipulate us or play games or hurt anyone in our family, we're done. On forever. I understand. Elon took a deep breath. 4 months, that's all you get. We try. We really try. And at the end, whatever happens, happens. Errol's entire body sagged with relief. Fresh tears poured down his face. Thank you both. I know I don't deserve— You're right, Elon interrupted. You don't deserve it. But maybe we deserve the chance to find out if our father can actually love us before he's gone. He walked toward the door, then stopped and looked back. We start next week. Kimball will send you the details. Don't be late. I won't be. As Elon and Kimball left the room, Nadine quietly packed the letters back into the cardboard box. Errol stood alone by the window staring out at the garden, looking more terrified and more hopeful than he'd ever looked in his entire life. 4 months. And 4 months to undo 40 years of damage. 4 months to become the father he should have been all along. It seemed impossible, but impossible just meant not yet figured out. And for the first time in decades, Elon Musk was willing to try. The brothers didn't speak as they walked out of the hotel. They didn't speak in the taxi back to the airport. They didn't speak until they were sitting in the first-class lounge waiting for their flights. Elon back to California, Kimball to Colorado. Finally, Kimball broke the silence. Are we crazy? Are we actually going to do this? Elon stared at his untouched coffee. I don't know, maybe. He's going to hurt us again. You know that, right? People don't just change because they're dying. They're still who they are. I know. So why are we doing this? Elon looked at his brother. He really looked at him. Kimball's eyes were still red from crying. His hands were fidgeting with a napkin, tearing it into tiny pieces. Something he'd done since childhood when he was anxious. Because Grandma was right, Elon said quietly. If we don't try, we'll spend the rest of our lives wondering if we should have. And I'm tired of wondering about things I can't change. Kimball nodded slowly. I'm scared. Me too. What if we actually start to forgive him and then he dies? What if we open up and then we lose him anyway? Then at least we tried. At least we didn't let fear make the decision for us. They sat in silence for another moment. Then Kimball reached over and squeezed his brother's hand. Okay, 4 months. We try. We try. 3 days later, Elon Musk arrived in Boulder, Colorado. Yet Kimball had arranged for him to stay in a guest house on a property he owned. A small, comfortable cottage separated from the main house by a garden and a walking path. Close enough to feel connected. Far enough for boundaries. Elon flew in from California that first weekend. The three of them sat around Kimball's kitchen table, and it felt surreal. Wrong somehow, like actors playing parts in a movie about someone else's family. I made dinner, Kimball said, serving roasted chicken with vegetables. Nothing fancy. Errol took a small portion. It looks wonderful, thank you. They ate in awkward silence for several minutes. The only sounds were forks on plates and the distant hum of the refrigerator. Finally, Errol set down his fork. I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to just be normal with you. None of us do, Elon said. I keep wanting to ask about your companies, about SpaceX and Tesla and Neuralink, but I'm afraid if I do, I'll fall into old patterns. I'll start analyzing, criticizing, telling you what you should do differently. Then don't ask about that, Kimball suggested. Ask about something else. Like what? Like, I don't know. What makes us happy? What we're afraid of? What we dream about that has nothing to do with business? Errol looked genuinely confused. I don't know those things about you. We know, Elon said quietly. That's the problem. The silence stretched again. Then Errol took a deep breath. Okay, let me try. He looked at Kimball. What makes you happy? Really happy? Not proud? Not accomplished? Actually happy? Kimball blinked, surprised by the question. Honestly? Cooking breakfast for my kids on Saturday mornings. They sit at the counter and talk about their week while I make pancakes. It's simple, but it makes me happier than anything else in my life. Errol's eyes got wet. I never made you breakfast, not once. Your mother did, but I never did. No, you didn't. I should have. That's such a simple thing, and I never did it. Kimball's voice was thick. You're right, you should have. Errol turned to Elon. What about you? What makes you happy? Elon was quiet for a long moment. My kids. When they laugh at something genuinely funny, not fake laughing to make adults feel good, real, belly laughing because something delights them. That sound makes everything else worth it. Do I know your children? Errol asked. You've met them at events. You took photos with them for your social media, but know them? I know. I want to, Errol said suddenly. I want to know them. Really know them. Will you let me? Elon hesitated. Every protective instinct in his body screamed no. Don't let him near the kids. Don't risk him hurting them the way he hurt you. But his grandmother's letter echoed in his mind. Give them the father they deserve while you still can. Once, Elon said carefully. You can meet them properly once. If you're kind to them, if you're actually present and warm with them, we'll talk about more visits. But if you criticize them or ignore them or treat them like I'm treating you right now with suspicion, that's it. Done. I understand. And Elon, I will be kind. I promise you. It was such a simple statement, but it hit Elon hard. His father had never promised to be kind before. He'd promised to be right, to be successful, to be strong, but never kind. The second week was worse. They'd set up an appointment with a family therapist, Dr. Patricia Chen, a woman in her 60s who specialized in family reconciliation and end-of-life issues. The first session was a disaster. They sat in Dr. Chen's comfortable office. Leather chairs, soft lighting, tissues strategically placed on every surface. And within 10 minutes, Errol was defending himself. I did the best I could with what I knew, he said. My father was much harder on me than I ever was on them. I actually thought I was being gentle by comparison. That's not, Elon started. Let him finish, Dr. Chen said gently. I pushed you because I believed in you. I saw your potential and I didn't want you to waste it. Elon stood up. This is pointless. He's not actually here to change. Now he's here to explain why everything he did was justified. Elon, wait, Kimball said. But Elon was already walking toward the door. His hand was on the handle when Errol spoke, his voice breaking. You're right. Elon stopped. You're absolutely right. I'm doing exactly what I've always done. I'm defending myself instead of listening. I'm making it about me instead of about you. Elon slowly turned around. Errol was crying, not trying to hide it, not apologizing for it, just crying. I'm so sorry, I don't know how to do this. 67 years of being defensive don't just disappear because I want them to, but I'm trying, I swear I'm trying. Dr. Chen leaned forward. Errol, instead of explaining why you did what you did, try saying what Elon needed to hear back then, and what he needs to hear now. Errol wiped his face with shaking hands. He looked directly at Elon. You deserved better. You deserved a father who celebrated you without finding flaws. You deserved to feel safe showing weakness. You deserve to know that my love wasn't conditional on your achievements. His voice dropped to a whisper. I was wrong. Everything I told myself about making you stronger, about preparing you for a hard world, it was all lies I told myself to justify being cruel. And I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Elon stood frozen by the door. He'd imagined this moment 1,000 times over the years. In his imagination, he'd always felt triumphant when his father finally admitted the truth. Vindicated. But he didn't feel triumphant. He felt sad. Deeply, achingly sad. He walked back to his chair and sat down. Tell me a specific thing, Elon said. Tell me one specific thing you're sorry for. Errol nodded. The science fair. When you were 14. You'd spent 3 months building that solar panel array. You were so proud of it. And when you showed it to me, the first thing I said was, the wiring is sloppy. Elon finished, his voice hollow. You said the wiring was sloppy and the calculations could be more efficient. I remember your face. The light just went out. You said thank you and walked away. You didn't show me your projects after that. No, I didn't. I'm sorry, I should have said, this is incredible, I'm so proud of you. Tell me how you figured this out. That's what you deserve to hear. That's what a real father would have said. Kimball spoke up quietly. Do you remember my 10th birthday party? Errol closed his eyes. Yes. What happened? I left early. I said I had an important meeting. But the truth is I was uncomfortable. All the other fathers were there being silly, playing games with the kids, and I didn't know how to do that. So I left. I cried that night. Mom found me in my room crying. She asked why, and I couldn't even explain it. I just knew that everyone else's dad stayed and mine didn't. I'm sorry, Kimball. That was unforgivable. You were 10 years old and I chose my discomfort over your happiness. The session continued for another hour. More specific memories, more specific apologies, more tears. By the end, all three men were exhausted. In the parking lot, Dr. Chen pulled Elon aside. That was hard, but it was real, she said. He caught himself. He stopped defending and started listening. That's progress. Is it enough? Elon asked. That's not for me to answer, but I'll tell you this. Change is messy. It's not a straight line. He's going to mess up again. The question is whether he keeps trying when he does. The third week, something shifted. Elon brought his children to Boulder, X, his oldest, and the twins Strider and Azure. He briefed them carefully beforehand. Grandpa Errol has been sick. He wants to spend some time with you, but if he makes you uncomfortable or if you don't want to be there, just say the word and we leave. Okay? Okay, Dad, X said, looking nervous. They met at a local park. Errol was already there, sitting on a bench, looking frailer than he had 2 weeks ago. The cancer was taking its toll. The children approached cautiously. Hello, Errol said softly. He didn't try to hug them or force familiarity, he just smiled. Thank you for coming to meet with me. Are you really dying? X asked bluntly. He was 11 and had inherited Elon's direct way of speaking. X, Elon started to correct him, but Errol held up a hand. It's okay, he deserves honesty. He looked at X. Yes, I have cancer. I'm going to die probably in about 3 more months. That's sad, Strider said. She was 8 and had her mother's empathy. It is sad, but it's also made me think about what matters. And you three matter very much. We don't really know you, Azure pointed out. She was X's twin, thoughtful and observant. I know, that's my fault. I wasn't a very good grandfather before, but I'd like to try to be one now if you'll let me, even if it's just for a little while. What do grandfathers do? Strider asked. Errol smiled, a real warm smile. I don't know. I wasn't very good at being a father, so I'm definitely not an expert at being a grandfather. Maybe you could teach me? X considered this seriously. Grandpa on Mom's side taught me chess. Could you do that? I love chess. I'd be honored to play with you. I like drawing, Azure said, but I'm not very good. I'm sure you're better than you think, and being good doesn't matter as much as enjoying it. Could you show me some of your drawings? Really? Really? They spent the next 2 hours in the park. Errol sat on a blanket with the children, looking at Azure's sketchbook, playing a game of chess with X on a portable board, listening to Strider talk about her favorite books. Elon watched from a distance, ready to intervene. But he didn't need to. His father was gentle, patient, present. He asked questions and actually listened to the answers. He laughed at the children's jokes. He didn't correct or criticize or judge. He was just there, fully there, in a way he'd never been with Elon. When it was time to leave, Strider hugged Errol spontaneously. I hope you don't die too soon, she said with heartbreaking innocence. I like you. Errol hugged her back, tears streaming down his face. I like you too, sweetheart, very much. That night, after the children were asleep, Kimball found Elon sitting alone in the dark, staring out the window. You okay? Kimball asked. He was good with them, really good, kind and patient and present. That's good, right? It makes me angry. Elon's voice was tight. He can be that person for them, but he couldn't be that person for us? What was wrong with us? Why weren't we worth that version of him? Kimball sat down next to his brother. Nothing was wrong with us. Something was wrong with him. He wasn't ready to be that person then. He is now. It's not fair. But it's true. I know it logically, but it still hurts. It's supposed to hurt. That means it matters. They sat in silence for a while, then Elon spoke again. He's running out of time. I can see it. He's weaker every time I see him. I know. What if 4 months isn't enough? What if we're just getting started and then he's gone? Then we'll have what we have. And it'll be more than we had before. Is that enough? Kimball put his arm around his brother's shoulders. I don't know, but it's what we've got. By the end of the first month, something had changed in all of them. Errol had stopped defending himself. He listened more than he spoke. He asked about feelings, not just facts. Elon found himself actually looking forward to the weekly dinners instead of dreading them. Kimball noticed that the tension he'd carried in his shoulders for decades was starting to ease. During their 4th therapy session, Dr. Chen asked, "What's different now compared to a month ago?" Errol answered, "A month ago, I was still trying to be right. Now, I'm trying to be present. Those are very different goals." "And you too?" Dr. Chen looked at the brothers. "A month ago," Elon said slowly, "I thought this was impossible. I thought people couldn't change, especially not him. Now I think maybe impossible just means not yet figured out." Kimball smiled. That's very you." "It's very Grandma," Errol corrected softly. "She used to say that. I'd forgotten. She'd say, 'Impossible just means you haven't found the right way yet.'" "She was a smart woman," Dr. Chen observed. "She was. I should have listened to her." Errol looked at his sons. "But I'm listening now. That has to count for something." "It does," Kimball said. And he meant it. As they left the session, Elon surprised himself by reaching out and briefly touching his father's shoulder. It was the first voluntary physical contact they'd had in over a decade. Errol's eyes filled with tears, but he didn't say anything. He didn't need to. They had 3 months left. 3 months to build something real from the ruins of what had been. 3 months to discover if forgiveness was actually possible. Meant 3 months before time ran out completely. And for the first time, all 3 of them believed those 3 months might actually matter. Month 2 started with a crisis. Errol collapsed in the guest house on a Tuesday morning. Kimball found him on the bathroom floor, unconscious and burning with fever. The ambulance ride to the hospital was a blur. Elon flew in immediately, arriving just as the doctors were stabilizing Errol in the ICU. "The cancer has spread more aggressively than we expected," Dr. Morrison explained, her voice gentle but honest. "His immune system is compromised. This infection could be very serious." "How serious?" Elon asked, though he already knew the answer. "Days, maybe. Possibly hours." "I'm sorry." Kimball turned away, his hand covering his mouth. Elon stood perfectly still, thus his face blank, the mask he wore when emotions threatened to overwhelm him. "Can we see him?" Kimball asked. "Yes, but he's very weak. He may not be fully conscious." They entered the ICU room together. Errol looked tiny in the hospital bed, surrounded by machines beeping and whirring. His skin was gray. His breathing was labored. Elon pulled up a chair and sat down. "Dad, can you hear me?" Errol's eyes fluttered open. They were cloudy with fever and pain medication, but he recognized his sons. "Sorry," he whispered. "Wanted more time." "Don't talk," Kimball said, his voice breaking. "Save your energy." "No." Errol's hand moved weakly, reaching for something. Tell you." Elon took his father's hand. It felt fragile, like bird bones wrapped in papery skin. "We're here. We're both here." "Wasted. So much time." Errol's breath was raspy. 40 years. Being proud? Instead of being your father. You tried, Elon said, surprised by the emotion in his own voice. These last 2 months, you really tried. Not enough time? It's enough, Kimball said, tears streaming down his face. Dad, it's enough. You showed us you could change. That's what mattered. Errol's eyes closed. For a moment, both brothers thought he'd slipped away. But then he spoke again so quietly they had to lean in to hear. Loved you. Always loved you. Just didn't know how to show it. We know, Elon whispered. We know now. They sat with him through the night. Nurses came and went. Machines beeped. Outside the window, the sun set and rose again. And slowly, impossibly, Errol's fever broke. By Thursday morning, he was sitting up, in a drinking juice, looking exhausted but alive. That was too close, Dr. Morrison said. You're not going to get another miracle like that. The cancer is winning. You have weeks now, not months. Errol nodded. He'd known. Then I need to make them count. The incident changed something fundamental between them. They stopped wasting time on small talk. They stopped being careful with their words. They dove into the deep conversations they'd been avoiding. One evening, sitting in Kimball's living room, with a fire crackling in the fireplace, Errol asked, "Tell me about your mother, how she is now, the truth." The brothers exchanged glances. She's happy, Kimball said carefully. Remarried, lives in Canada. She gardens. She volunteers at a women's shelter. Does she hate me? No, Elon said. I think she pities you, which is somehow worse. Errol flinched but nodded. I deserve that. I destroyed our marriage. I was so focused on being right about everything that I forgot to be kind about anything. Why did you do it? Kimball asked. Why were you so cruel to her? Errol was quiet for a long time. Because she saw through me. She saw that underneath all my confidence and criticism, I was terrified. Terrified of being ordinary. Terrified of being unimportant. And instead of letting her love me through that fear, I punished her for seeing it. That's incredibly messed up, Elon said bluntly. I know. Your grandmother tried to tell me. She said, May sees the real you and loves you anyway. That's a gift. Don't throw it away. But I did throw it away, because accepting love felt more dangerous than living without it. Why? Kimball pressed. Because if someone loves you, they can hurt you. They can leave you. They can stop loving you. But if you're alone by choice, if you push everyone away first, then you're in control of the pain. He looked at his sons with complete honesty. I taught you boys the same thing. I taught you that achievement was safer than affection. That success was more reliable than love. That being strong meant never being vulnerable. And it was all wrong, Elon said. It was all wrong. Another evening, Errol asked about their dreams. Not business dreams, but personal ones. What do you want that you don't have? He asked. What keeps you up at night? Kimball answered first. I want to feel like I'm enough, just as I am. Not because of my restaurants or my success, just enough. Errol's face crumpled. I did that to you. I made you feel like you were never enough. Yes, you did. Kimball, you are enough. You've always been enough. You're kind and thoughtful, and you make people feel loved. That's worth more than anything I ever achieved. Kimball couldn't speak. He just nodded, tears falling. Errol turned to Elon. And you? Elon stared at the fire for a long time. I want to stop trying to prove something. I want to build things because I love building them, not because I'm trying to show the world. Show you that I'm worthy. You don't need to prove anything to me. I know that now, but 40 years of programming doesn't just disappear. What can I do? How can I help undo what I did? Elon looked at his father. You already are, by being honest, by admitting what you did wrong. by not making excuses. That's what I needed. Not your pride, your honesty. During their last therapy session, Errol was too weak to come to more after this. Dr. Chen asked them to do an exercise. I want each of you to tell the others something you need to say before it's too late. Something important, something true. Kimball went first. Dad, I forgive you. I don't know if I should. I don't know if it's too soon or if I'm being weak. But I do. I forgive you. Errol sobbed. Thank you. I don't deserve it, but thank you. You're right, you don't deserve it. But I deserve peace. And holding on to anger was killing me just as surely as cancer is killing you. Elon went next. His voice was steady, but his hands were shaking. Dad, I spent 40 years trying to be nothing like you. I rejected everything about you. Your personality, your values, your way of being in the world. But the truth is, I'm more like you than I want to admit. I can be cold. I can be critical. I can put achievement before relationships. He paused, swallowing hard. And I'm terrified that I'm doing to my children what you did to us. That they'll grow up and need therapy because of me. That they'll spend decades being angry at who I was. You're not me, Errol said firmly. You're aware. You're trying. You love them without conditions. I see it when you're with them. You're already the father I should have been. How do you know? How do you know I won't mess it up? Because you're afraid of messing it up. I never was. I thought I was doing everything right. That's the difference. Finally, Errol spoke. His voice was weak but clear. I want to tell you both something I should have said every day of your lives. I'm proud of you. Not because you're successful or famous or brilliant, though you are all those things. I'm proud of you because you're kind, because you chose to be better than I was. Because when faced with a bitter, dying old man who hurt you, you chose to give him grace. He looked at each of them. You are extraordinary men, and it has nothing to do with anything I did right. It's despite everything I did wrong. You broke the cycle. You became the kind of fathers, the kind of people I should have been. His voice broke completely. That's my legacy, not my achievements or my money. You two. The fact that you overcame me to become yourselves. I'm so proud of that. So grateful for that. Dr. Chen was crying too. That's beautiful, Errol. That's a real gift. The third month, Errol barely left the guest house. The pain was constant now, even with medication. He slept most of the day, but every evening Elon and Kimball came to sit with him. Sometimes they talked. Often they just sat in comfortable silence. One evening, Errol pulled out the old photograph again, the one from the beach with the sandcastle. I want you to have this, he said, handing it to Kimball. I want you to remember that I wasn't always broken, that there were moments when I got it right. We will, Kimball promised. Another evening, Errol had a request. Will you call your mother? I want to apologize to her. I know it's too late for us, but I need her to know I see what I did now. Elon made the call, put it on speaker. May, it's Elon. Dad's here. He wants to talk to you. There was a long pause, then, hello, Errol. Hello, May. I know I have no right to ask for your time, but I'm dying, and I need to say something. I heard about the cancer. I'm sorry. Don't be. I deserve it, but you didn't deserve what I put you through. The way I treated you during our marriage was unforgivable. You were kind and patient and loving, and I repaid that with cruelty and contempt. Silence on the other end. I'm not asking for forgiveness, Errol continued. I just need you to know that I see it now. I see what I destroyed, and I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. When May spoke again, her voice was thick with tears. Thank you for saying that. It doesn't change the past, but thank you. You did a beautiful job with the boys. They're remarkable men. That's all you, all your love and strength. I tried to break that, but you protected them. Thank you for that. They're the best thing we ever did together. They are. Take care. May. Goodbye, Errol. After the call ended, Errol looked at his sons. She deserves so much better than me. She got better, Elon said gently. Her new husband is kind to her. He makes her laugh. She's happy. Good, that's good. On a quiet Sunday morning, 3 months and 2 weeks after that first meeting in Cape Town, Errol asked his sons to take him outside one more time. They bundled him in blankets and carefully moved him to a chair in the garden. It was early spring. Flowers were blooming. Birds were singing. This is nice, Errol said, his voice barely a whisper now. I should have done this more. Sat outside, watched things grow, been still. It's not too late, Kimball said. Errol smiled. It is, but that's okay. I got what mattered. What's that? Elon asked. You two, here, with me. Not angry, not bitter, just here. He closed his eyes, feeling the sun on his face. I need to tell you something about why I refused your $1 billion. You don't have to explain, Elon started. I do. I need you to understand. Errol opened his eyes. When you slid that check across the table, my first instinct was to take it. Of course it was. I've spent my whole life chasing money, status, proof that I mattered. But then I looked at you, really looked at you, and I saw that you were offering me money to make me go away, to buy your freedom from me. And I realized I already had the most valuable thing in the world. I had 2 brilliant, beautiful sons, and I'd thrown that away chasing things that didn't matter. His voice got stronger, more urgent. $1 billion couldn't fix that. Only time could. Only truth could. I'd only being brave enough to admit what I'd done and try, really try, to be better. He reached out and took both their hands. I don't regret refusing the money, not for a second. These 3 months with you, actually being your father, that's worth more than all the money in the world. Tears streamed down Elon's face. You gave us something too, Dad. You showed us that change is possible, that it's never too late to choose love over pride. Almost too late, Errol corrected gently. But not quite, Kimball added. That's what matters. You chose us while you still could. They sat in the garden until the sun began to set, 3 men who had found each other again in the last possible moment. That night, Errol slipped into a coma. He died 2 days later, peacefully, with his sons at his bedside holding his hands. And his last conscious words were, "Thank you for giving me the chance to get it right, even if only for a little while." And in the end, a little while was enough. It had to be, because it was all they had. At the small private funeral, Elon gave the eulogy. His voice was steady, but his eyes were red. My father wasn't a perfect man. He made terrible mistakes. Those mistakes caused real damage, real pain. I won't stand here and pretend otherwise. But in his final months, he showed me something I didn't think was possible. He showed me that it's never too late to choose to be better. It's never too late to choose love over pride. It's never too late to say, I was wrong, and mean it. When I offered my father $1 billion, I thought I was being generous. I thought money could solve the problem between us, or at least end it cleanly. But he taught me that the things that matter most can't be bought or sold. He didn't want my money. He wanted my time, my forgiveness, the chance to be my dad. And that turned out to be worth more than any amount of money I could ever offer. We had 3 months, just 3 months to undo 40 years of damage. It shouldn't have been enough time, but somehow it was. Because he used every single day to try, to listen, to apologize, to love us the way he should have from the beginning. 3 months of real fatherhood meant more than 40 years of broken relationship. So I want to thank him. Thank you, Dad, for being brave enough to change. For showing me that impossible just means not yet figured out. For loving us before it was too late. And I want to thank Grandma, whose letters started all of this, who never gave up believing that her son could be better, Who was right? Finally, I want to say to everyone here, don't wait. Don't wait for a diagnosis or a deadline to tell people you love them. Don't wait until you're running out of time to become who you want to be. Start today. Start now. Because time runs out, and you don't know how much you have. Use it wisely. Use it with love. That's what my father taught me in the end. And it's the most valuable thing he ever gave me. When Elon finished, the room was silent except for quiet crying. Kimball stood and embraced his brother. And somewhere, in whatever comes after this life, a grandmother smiled, because her son had finally learned the lesson she'd been trying to teach him all along. Love is what matters. Only love. Everything else is just noise. After the funeral, Elon found himself sitting alone by a lake near Kimball's property. The water was perfectly still, reflecting the sky like a mirror. He'd needed to get away from the people, the condolences, the well-meaning words that didn't quite reach the complicated grief he felt. He wasn't sad his father was gone. Not exactly. He was sad about all the years they'd wasted. Sad about what could have been if his father had found courage sooner. But he was also grateful. Deeply, unexpectedly grateful. Kimball found him there an hour later carrying 2 cups of coffee. "Thought you might need this," Kimball said, handing one to his brother. "Thanks." They sat in silence for a while, watching ducks glide across the water. "You okay?" Kimball finally asked. Elon took a long time to answer. "I keep thinking about what he said. About how the cancer gave him a deadline, and the deadline made him focus on what mattered." He turned to look at his brother. How many of us wait for that deadline? How many of us waste years, decades, before we focus on what actually matters? Kimball nodded slowly. Most people, probably. We get caught up in work, in proving ourselves, in being right, and we forget about the people who actually matter. "I've been thinking about my kids," Elon said quietly. "About how I am with them. Am I really better than Dad was? Or am I just telling myself that? You're better. I've seen you with them. You're present. You listen. You tell them you're proud without adding but. Sometimes, but other times I'm distracted. Other times I'm thinking about work or problems or the next big thing, and they can tell. And I see it in their faces. That's called being human, Elon. Dad's problem wasn't that he was sometimes distracted. It was that he was always critical, that he made love conditional. You don't do that." Elon was quiet, processing this. "I called X last night after everyone left." "Yeah." "I told him I loved him, not because he'd done something impressive, not because of grades or achievements, just because. And you know what he said?" "What?" "He said, 'I know, Dad. You tell me that a lot.' Like it was the most normal thing in the world." Elon's voice broke. "Dad never told us that. Not once without attaching conditions to it." "No, he didn't. 3 months with him, the real him, taught me more about being a father than 40 years of anger ever could." They sat in comfortable silence again. A breeze rippled across the water, undisturbing the perfect reflection. "What are you going to do with the money?" Kimball asked. "The $1 billion you'd set aside for him?" "Cancer research, specifically pancreatic cancer. I'm setting up a foundation in his name. Maybe we can help other families have more than 3 months. Maybe we can give them years." He'd like that. Would he? The old him wouldn't have cared about helping others. But the new him would have. The man he became in those last months, that man would absolutely care. Elon smiled sadly. "Yeah, you're right." A week later, Elon was back in California, trying to return to normal life. But normal felt different now. He found himself making different choices. When his daughter Azur asked him to look at her drawings, he stopped working immediately, sat down next to her, really looked, asked questions, told her he loved her creativity without suggesting improvements. When X struggled with a math problem, Elon's first instinct was to solve it for him and explain the elegant solution. But he caught himself. Instead, he asked, "What's frustrating you about it? Walk me through your thinking." And he listened, really listened. One evening, his youngest, Strider, asked, "Dad, are you sad about Grandpa Errol?" Elon picked her up and sat her on his lap. "I am sad, but I'm also happy." "How can you be both?" "Because Grandpa Errol showed me something important before he died. He showed me that people can change, that it's never too late to be better, that saying I love you matters more than being right." "Did he love you?" "Yes, he always did. He just forgot how to show it for a very long time. But he remembered at the end." "I'm glad he remembered," Strider said, hugging her father tight. "Me too, sweetheart. Me too." 6 months after Errol's death, Elon received a package in the mail. It was from Nadine, his grandmother's old friend. Inside was a letter and one final photograph he'd never seen before. The letter was in Nadine's handwriting. "Dear Elon and Kimball, I found this photograph in the box with your grandmother's letters. I think she'd want you to have it now. Your grandmother took this picture the day before she died. She told me, if Errol ever finds the courage to face his mistakes, show this to my grandsons. Let them see that hope is always possible. Your father was brave. He faced what he'd done. He changed. Your grandmother would be so proud of him, and so proud of you both for giving him that chance. With love, I, Nadine." The photograph showed young Errol, maybe 25 years old, holding his own mother's hand. They were sitting in a garden and Errol's head was resting on his mother's shoulder. His face showed vulnerability, softness, love. Elon stared at the photo for a long time. This was the man his father had been before fear hardened him, before pride built walls around his heart, before achievement became more important than affection. And in those final 3 months, that's who Errol had become again. Not the young man in the photo he couldn't undo decades of damage, but someone trying, genuinely trying, to reconnect with that softer version of himself. Elon called Kimball. "Did you get a package from Nadine?" "Just opened it. You see the photo?" "Yeah." It's strange seeing him like that, so open, like so vulnerable. "That's who he was underneath everything," Elon said. "That's who he was trying to get back to at the end." "Do you think he made it? Do you think he actually became that person again?" Elon thought about the last few months, the honest conversations, the real apologies, his father crying without shame, his father being gentle with the grandchildren, his father listening instead of lecturing. "Yeah," Elon said finally. "I think he did. Not completely, not perfectly. But enough. He became enough of that person for it to matter." That's all any of us can do, right? Become enough of our best selves for it to matter? I guess so. A year after Errol's death, Elon gave a rare interview about his father. The interviewer asked, "Your relationship with your father was famously difficult, yet you gave a moving eulogy at his funeral. What changed?" Elon was silent for a moment, choosing his words carefully. "My father refused a $1 billion gift from me. When I asked him what he wanted instead, he said he wanted something money couldn't buy. The chance to be my father before he died. Really be my father. Not the critical, distant man he'd been, but the father he should have been all along." And did he succeed? In 3 months, he did more to repair our relationship than I thought possible in a lifetime. He listened. He apologized for specific things. He acknowledged the pain he'd caused without making excuses. He was gentle with my children in ways he'd never been with me. Elon's voice got thick. He showed me that change is possible, that it's never too late while you're still breathing, that choosing love over pride, even when you're dying, even when you're terrified, even when it means admitting you were wrong about everything, that's the bravest thing a person can do. Do you forgive him? I do. Not because he deserved it, but because holding on to anger was poisoning my life. Forgiveness wasn't a gift I gave him. It was a gift I gave myself. What do you want people to learn from your story? Elon looked directly at the camera. Don't wait. Don't wait for a terminal diagnosis to tell people you love them. Don't wait until you're dying to become the person you want to be. Don't wait until it's almost too late to fix broken relationships. He paused. My father and I got 3 months. We were incredibly lucky to get even that. Most people who wait don't get a second chance. Most people run out of time before they find the courage. So start today. Start right now. Call someone you've been meaning to call. Apologize for something you've been avoiding. Tell someone you love them without conditions. Be vulnerable, be honest, be brave. Because time runs out, and you don't know when. None of us do. 2 years after Errol's death, Kimball opened a restaurant in Boulder dedicated to his father's memory. It wasn't a fancy place, just a small, warm restaurant that served simple, honest food. The kind of place where families gathered, where people talked and laughed and connected. Above the entrance, a small plaque read, "Impossible just means not yet figured out." In memory of Elon Musk, who figured it out just in time. At the opening, Kimball gave a short speech. My father spent most of his life being impressive, building things, achieving things, proving things. But in his last months, he focused on something harder, being present, being honest, being loving. This restaurant is about that, about coming together, about the simple act of sharing a meal with people you care about being present instead of impressive. Dad finally learned that love is what matters, only love. Everything else is just noise. I hope everyone who comes here feels that. Feels loved. Feels present. Feels connected. He raised his glass. To my father, who taught me that it's never too late. And to my grandmother, who never stopped believing he could be better. And to my brother, who was brave enough to give him one last chance. To family, everyone echoed. 3 years after Errol's death, Elon was putting his youngest to bed when Strider asked, Dad, do you ever talk to Grandpa Errol? He's gone, sweetheart. He can't hear me anymore. But do you talk to him anyway? Elon smiled. Sometimes. Why? Because I do. I tell him about school and my friends and stuff. I think he can hear me. What do you tell him? I tell him thank you. For what? For teaching you how to be a good dad. You're really good at it. Elon felt tears spring to his eyes. He hugged his daughter close. Thank you, baby. That means everything to me. After Strider fell asleep, Elon walked out to his backyard and looked up at the stars. The same stars his father had shown him as a child. The same stars that had inspired his whole career. And he did talk to his father. Out loud, into the night. You were right, Dad, about what you said at the end. Those 3 months were worth more than $1 billion. Worth more than anything. You gave me something I didn't know I needed. Proof that change is possible. That people can choose to be better. That love can win, even at the last moment. I'm trying to be better too. Every day, with my kids, with my work, with everyone. I'm trying to focus on what matters before I run out of time. Thank you for showing me how. Thank you for being brave enough to try. Thank you for refusing the $1 billion and asking for something real instead. The stars twinkled silently. Somewhere far away, or maybe very close, a father and grandmother smiled. Because in the end, love had won. It always does if you're brave enough to choose it. The $1 billion account was never used for its original purpose. Instead, the Elon Musk Foundation for Pancreatic Cancer Research has funded groundbreaking studies. They're getting closer to better treatments, better outcomes, more time for families, more time to say, I love you, more time to apologize, more time to change, more time to choose love over pride. That's what Errol had asked for instead of money. Time to get it right. And in giving his sons that gift, the gift of seeing that change is possible, he'd given them something worth more than all the money in the world. He'd given them hope. Hope that broken things can be mended. Hope that it's never too late. Hope that love in the end is always the answer. Always. 5 years later, Elon stood in front of a room full of business leaders giving a speech about success and failure. Near the end, he told this story. 5 years ago, I offered my father $1 billion to leave my life forever. He refused. Instead, he asked for 3 months to try to be the father he should have been all along. Those 3 months changed my life more than any business success ever has. They taught me what actually matters. They taught me that the wealth that counts can't be measured in dollars. So I'll end with this. What are you waiting for? What relationship needs healing? What words need saying? What person needs to know you love them? Don't wait for a deadline. Don't wait until you're running out of time. Do it now, today, this moment. Because the things that matter most can't be bought. They can only be given freely with courage and love. And they're worth more than all the money in the world. The room erupted in applause. But Elon wasn't thinking about the applause. He was thinking about his father, about impossible things that become possible, about love that heals even when it seems too late, about the best gift anyone ever gave him, proof that change is real. And he smiled, because in refusing $1 billion, his father had given him something priceless, a second chance. And that, in the end, was worth everything. So where are you watching this from? Drop your country or city in the comments below. We love hearing from you. If this story touched your heart, please hit that like button and subscribe to our channel. By subscribing, you're helping us spread kindness and important messages to people who need to hear them. And don't stop here. Click on the video appearing on your screen right now for another powerful story that will inspire you. Thanks for watching. And remember, it's never too late to choose love over everything else.